Before or after being the victim of an assault or armed robbery, how do you know if getting a gun is right for you?
And that's the first thing I hear of. So I'm going to go buy a gun, so I'm going to shoot, if somebody comes and approaches me again, I can shoot them.
Darlene Costanza from Crime Stoppers, who often works with crime victims, says if you're considering that option, get training first.
You can see time and time again that if you are not properly trained and able and know how to operate your firearm, someone could take that firearm from you and use it on you.
Open carry is considered legal in the state of Louisiana, and as long as you're 21 years old with no criminal history, you can purchase a firearm. But there has been a long national debate of pro-gun organizations saying more citizens that are trained in legally carrying guns reduce crime, while anti-gun organizations say more guns lead to more crime. So I talked to LSU School of Public Health criminologist Dr. Peter Scharf. He's published 8 books over the past 40 years on criminal justice research and training. He says both arguments don't solve the problem of getting undocumented guns off of the streets.
Guns get stolen, lost, whatever, they get recirculated, but there's no documentation. So the other hand is, you look around New Orleans and the idea that lots of guns, reduce violent crime, you got to be on crack to believe that.
For someone who's been a victim of a crime, when they look at all of this information that's out there that's for guns and against guns, does this help that person make a better decision on choosing to get a gun to defend themselves?
Right now, because of Ferguson and the fear from a lot of reasons, gun sales are going crazy. And then you get people who took the course, they're partially trained, but they're not combat ready.
But there are many places in southeast Louisiana that offer gun courses, including the St. Bernard Indoor Shooting Center in St. Bernard Parish.
And make sure you're aiming.
Brandon LaBeouf runs the Indoor Shooting Center and spent 11 years as a U.S. Marine and 18 years in different facets of law enforcement in Louisiana, including the Gretna Police Department in Jefferson Parish. He says when you've recently been victimized, there is usually an element of fear involved, so you should consider being trained first.
Remember, a firearm's not going to solve every problem. I would say the first step before going purchase a firearm would be to take a class. This one's important. Louisiana has a concealed handgun permit.
52-year-old Elizabeth Long lives in Houma and came to a recent concealed carry course to renew her permit for the 3rd time. She says she's held a concealed carry permit and has taken gun training courses since she was 18 years old. She had a traumatic experience as a teenager during an assault.
I was at work at a fast food restaurant as a teenager, and I was pushed into a stockroom. And then my coworker pulled a .357 revolver and held it to my head. I mean, even at 14 years old, you do kind of feel your life flash before your eyes,
That incident prompted Long to pursue a career in law enforcement, where she worked for Troop C of the Louisiana State Police for 5 years. Brandon LaBeouf says taking a concealed carry course gives potential gun owners a good overview of what it means to own a firearm.
Even if they have no intention of concealed carrying, because of the types of things we cover in that class, it's a good overview of safety, child access prevention, all the nuts and bolts they need to have.
The 9-hour Louisiana concealed handgun course covers having a firearm and carrying it for defense, safety, child access prevention, videos showing situations where having a gun helped or made a situation worse, basic marksmanship, what other states honor a permit from Louisiana, and the legal aspects of carrying a gun. LaBeouf says pulling the trigger and shooting someone is a small part of the overall equation.
Got about 49% that happens before you pull that trigger and about 51% that happens after you pull that trigger.
He says the 49% is making good decisions like avoiding conflict, not going into places you shouldn't be, and doing things you shouldn't be doing. He says once the trigger is pulled, the other 51% is the legal aftermath and the emotional aftermath.
Whenever you do that, even though you're 100% justified and you truly had to do it to save your life, you still killed another person. And that's something that we're all going to deal with in different ways.
After completing the course, permit carriers have to renew their permit every 5 years. LaBeouf says while there may be some random cases across the country where permit holders get into an incident, most who take the course don't have that problem.
What you find is that most people that have gone through a quality class and have taken on the responsibility of carrying a firearm are much, much, much more resistant